The enlisted men and women of the United States Navy comprise the muscle and backbone of a military seagoing force that can strike at the heart of the enemy in the defense of freedom, liberty, and justice, whether the enemy reside on land, in the air, or under the water. These men and women comprise what is arguably the most technologically advanced, capable, well-disciplined seagoing force humanity has ever seen. However, somebody needs to tell them that the rank structure is just freaking stupid. Today we're going to cover the enlisted ranks of the United States Navy, starting with Seaman Recruit all the way to Master Chief, Petty Officer of the Navy, and clearly we have a lot of work to do because these are perhaps the stupidest ranks currently in use by the United States military. Starting with the Seaman ranks, and before we get to the term Seaman, we need to address the stripes that the Seamen are using. Now, the Seaman ranks comprise simply of a diagonal stripe, single-colored, which, although elegant, could easily be confused with the service stripes used by other units in both the military and civilian world. Therefore, we need to change the Seaman stripes to a different kind of stripe so that people immediately recognize the individual wearing said stripes as seaman and not as anything else. So we're going to take a page from the United States Air Force. If you notice, their stripes sort of mimic the wings of an aircraft, and why not? It is what the Air Force does. So we're going to take the diagonal stripe of the United States Navy and we're going to make it horizontal because the ocean is, after all, horizontal. We're going to color it sea blue, and then since the ocean is wavy, we're going to make their stripes wavy. So we're going to have wavy seamen. 1 wavy seaman, 2 wavy seamen, and 3 wavy seamen. Now moving on to the term seaman. Clearly in today's politically correct environment, we need to be very, very conscious of the delicate sensitivities of the incoming recruits as not to trigger an offensive term or devalue their sense of self-esteem in any way, shape, or form. Hence, we're just not going to get very fancy with this. We're just going to change it from seaman to sea person as not to exclude any gender. Now, when it comes to the term recruit, that also has a negative connotation that could trigger a potential recruit. So we're going to get rid of recruit. Moving on to apprentice. Apprentice has connotations of, well, we all remember this. So we're going to get rid of apprentice as well, and we're going to simplify things, and we're just going to go according to the stripes. So it's going to be Sea Person 1, Sea Person 2, Sea Person 3, each one denoting 1 stripe. Moving on to the petty officers. This is perhaps where we have the biggest problem. Now, the stripe itself is not problematic. We like the stripe, whether it's an eagle, a turkey, a crow, whatever kind of bird that is, we're okay with it. It looks good. It looks military. It denotes a sense of authority. So we're fine with the stripes and we're fine with the bird. The problem here is the terminology. If you Google the word petty, this is what you get. Definition of little importance. Trivial. The synonyms are trivial, trifling, minor, small, unimportant, insignificant, inconsequential, and so forth. Clearly, a member of the United States Navy is none of those things, so we need to get rid of the term petty altogether. The second term used is that of officer. Well, these guys are enlisted. They're not officers. These guys are the officers, not these guys, so the term officer also needs to go. The third term is third class. Now, third class, as opposed to first and second class, is perhaps the lowest, least desirable class you can possibly be in. To call a member of the United States military third class is, well, nothing short of a slap to the face. So we need to get rid of third class. So now we have a series of ranks with absolutely no terminology that apply. This is what we're going to do. When the Navy first adopted the U.S. Army's Black Hawk helicopter, they simply made it their own by renaming it Seahawk. When the U.S. Navy bought the F-16 Falcon from the United States Air Force for their aggressor squadrons, they simply renamed it the F-16 Sea Falcon. So we're going to do with the petty officers is this. We're going to make the term true and correct. What we're going to call them, first of all, we're going to take a page right out of the sea person book, and we're going to call them 1, 2, and 3. But the appropriate term is going to be sea sergeant. So we're going to have Sea Sergeant 1, Sea Sergeant 2, and Sea Sergeant 3. Moving on to the top ranks. If you notice, this individual here is a Chief Petty Officer. We like Chief. Chief is good. It conveys authority, wisdom, knowledge. So we're going to keep Chief, but we still have the problem of the word petty. Now, these aren't the middle ranks. These are the top ranks. So what do we do with the term petty when the individual whom you are referring to is everything but petty? Well, I believe the title should reflect that. So we're going to change his name from petty to not petty. Now, as far as the officer is concerned, this individual may not be an officer, but in terms of authority, he's right next to him because, after all, he is a senior enlisted official. So we're going to change Chief Not Petty Officer to Chief Not Petty Officer-ish. Moving on to the next rank, which would be an E8. His name is Senior Chief Petty Officer, and we're good with Senior Chief. He's a chief, but he's senior. Maybe he's a little older, chances are. So we're going to keep Senior Chief, but again, we're going to change the bottom two to Senior Chief Not Petty Officer-ish in order to give him a title that is true and accurate to what his level of responsibility is. Moving on, we have Master Chief Petty Officer. Now, again, we're going to go ahead and keep the not petty and the officer-ish, but the term master, when applied to today's delicate sensitivities, could possibly trigger a recruit, and we certainly don't want to do that. So we need to rename master. We're good with the chief, but the master simply needs to go. So we're going to call him non-judgmental Chief Non-Petty Officer-ish in order for the troops to feel comfortable going to the senior official. Now we move on to the very last guy, and this is the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy. There's only one in the entire Navy. Obviously a man or woman of great distinction, intelligence, dedication, and discipline. But again, you can't call this guy petty and he's still not an officer. So all we're going to do here, is we're going to get rid of the term master as not to trigger the younger enlisted, and we're simply going to call him Chief Non-Petty Officer-ish of the Navy, Wavy.